Differences and similarities, all of me. Years ago, I sat in class, taking notes on nature versus nurture. I thought it was interesting and did my best. And professors were sometimes pleased with my unique answers, not so much with my late homework and disorganization. This usually happened because I could see many sides, rambled, and never quite got to the point. I asked why. Aren't we both what we're born with and how we grew up? As the years went on, the same thing kept happening in advocacy and research. There was ample room for a bit of me, but not all of me. And this becomes a bigger and bigger problem when you have a dual diagnosis, 2 labels, and the more minority groups you're a part of. I'm going to use autism and Down syndrome as an example, because that's what I'm most familiar with. But feel free to apply the parts that make sense in your life. In autism communities, we often say how we're different from other people with intellectual disabilities. And yes, differences in how we think about disability and who we are is really important when caring for people. But the tools we use to make our dreams happen and live good lives are very much the same. We need to know what's different and what's the same. We need them both so we can bring our whole selves. So what's different? I spend time in both autism groups and Down syndrome groups. And something I notice is our communities tend to think very differently about disability and what's most important about who we are. Generally, it seems like people with Down syndrome don't want to emphasize disability. When it comes up, people I know with Down syndrome tell me they are a person first, and that we need to see the person, not the disability. Maybe because Down syndrome is a visible disability people can see, and people notice. Where it is not uncommon for those on the spectrum to identify as being autistic. Many autistic people don't mind being different, and many more like being autistic and are proud of their autism. I'm no more a person of autism than I am a person with femaleness. I'm a woman. It's a part of me. You can't tell by looking if someone has autism, which makes it hard to access services in our community. There are so many gatekeepers who don't believe we really have a disability and think we're just bad people. So, why does this matter? Because whether we like it or not, people judge you by the way you look. Or don't. And the way different groups and individuals deal with being judged can give disabled people a vital clue in how to connect to our community. Connection is a difference between belonging and isolation, both human connection and connection to resources. What I suspect is going on is this. If one looks different and everyone can see your disability, it's easy to imagine how you'd want folks to see something else for a change. Our differences can cover up everything about us until that's all they can see. So when a dually diagnosed person behaves in ways others find challenging, their community may be more likely to misunderstand and respond with punishment rather than help, because we don't want to treat them different. More to the point, this leads to excluding the person with behavior challenges. In autism communities, we are more likely to understand the need for support and with self-regulation. Our community understands that keeping things the same can help keep one's mind and body calm. And that without taking care of the need, punishment will likely utterly fail and likely make things worse. When autism communities keep saying how different we are from people with other disabilities, it's usually to avoid the stigma being associated with those people. In an effort to develop our full potential, we fail to recognize that low expectations and segregated settings aren't appropriate for anyone. People with significant intellectual disabilities are really underestimated and underserved. Then dually diagnosed people are turned away again from precisely the community that would understand better than anybody and be able to help. This is what happens when you only see the differences and don't see what's the same too. If you only talk about how a person doesn't fit in, there's no community. And if you only talk about resources that don't work, there's nothing for them. people with two labels can be excluded everywhere they go. So what's the same? As I spend time in both autism groups and general disability groups, I see a lot of similarities too. Though one's goals and wants in life may differ between people, the practical tools we use in realizing those inner selves are very much the same. For example, people with autism and people with intellectual disabilities both benefit from support with activities of daily living. ADLs for the OTs out there. For example, people with some significant support needs lead active, fulfilling lives in the community with supports. My boss, the executive director of People First Wisconsin, is a person with an intellectual disability. Both she and I have job coaches to keep us organized. Both of us use modified timesheets with questions that prompt us to follow up. With prompts like, who can help me with this task? What can I do to follow up on this task later this week? How can this task support a chapter or social media post? One more thing I should mention is that it's possible to be very verbal and smart and still have trouble with ordinary stuff. Things like cooking meals, staying on top of household chores, paying bills on time. I need support in these areas. Verbal ability, IQ, or being high functioning are not reliable indicators of quality of life. Another bridge between disability communities is that our society is paying more attention to feelings and mental health than we used to. Mindfulness, deep breathing, self-regulation. The closer you look, the more similarities that mental health and autism communities share. And these similarities are striking. Yet when my local autism society reached out to nearby mental health organizations, they were less than enthusiastic, which is an odd position to take, considering the stigma against mental illness. It's funny. People with mental health issues don't want to associate with folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And within the IDD category, autistic people sometimes don't want to be with folks with intellectual disability. It's like we're grading each other in our disabilities. The fancy name is disability hierarchy, but that's basically what it is. Why does this matter? Ideally, how the service system is supposed to work is that people are categorized by their main disability. Physical disability, developmental disability, mental health, that kind of stuff. This really shouldn't compromise their services, but sometimes the system just isn't as equipped or knowledgeable enough to adequately provide the right services for people with a dual diagnosis. Which is a shame, because human beings don't fit into neat little boxes. Sometimes you have a person with a physical disability and a developmental disability, or a person with a developmental disability with mental health issues. A diagnosis of Down syndrome and autism is beginning to be more understood by service providers, possibly because they both fall into the larger main category of developmental disability. But we need to do better by everyone and allow them to bring their whole selves. Disability rights activist Morénike, Giwa, Onaiwu explains why this is so vital, better than I ever could. So I'll leave you with her words.
I, and people like me, can't splinter ourselves. There is no disabled me. There is no Black me. There is no female me. There is no parent me. There is no Christian me. There is just me. All of me. And I need for all of me, all of these parts of me, to be addressed. I can't leave my leg out in the rain while the rest of my body comes indoors for shelter. Because if I do, I am still going to be wet and miserable, even if much of my body is dry. That won't work for me. I don't know where my Blackness stops and my femaleness begins. I don't know where my femaleness stops and my Christianity begins. I don't know where my role as a disabled adult stops and where my role as a parent begins. I don't know when my role as a parent stops and my autisticness begins. I don't know where my autisticness stops and my Blackness begins. I need solutions, policies, ideas, images, writing, research, etc., to be intersectional. I need them to address all of me. All of me. All of me or none of me.